All right, you guys are overcomers. You guys are troopers, zealous. All right. So this last portion here is it's really just kind of bringing everything together, okay? And I add a couple of little things to add a little context. This first set of teachings here was mainly to just say, okay, well, who is the man-child? Who are the 144,000? Just kind of identify those guys. So we're continuing to study, and we'll as time goes on, I'm sure we'll come out with some more, on some more information, et cetera, et cetera. So there's like so much to still be studied and learned. But this part right here, we just wanted to get this out here and to be able to present something, kind of from this thematic point of view, someone that would do it that way. So this is going to be mainly a just kind of wrapping up everything. So Revelation 12, remember, is the central axis for the book of Revelation. So we needed to identify the woman. We said that the woman was Israel, the nation of Israel. Okay, we said who's the man-child. We said it's a body of Israelites known as the overcomers, or the 144,000. They're all one and the same. We looked at how the characteristics of the 144,000, they matched the overcomers. They also matched the man-child. And the remnant of her seed, all the rest of believers, the remnant of her seed in Revelation chapter 12. And I mentioned this towards the end. I forgot that I had it right here, but the events of the Great Tribulation are triggered by the gathering of the man-child, that first fruits resurrection. That's what triggers everything. When the 144,000 are caught up to the throne of God, as it says in Revelation 12:5, and then the enemy kicked out of heaven, and then it says that's when he goes after that woman for 1,260 days. So the key was understanding what was going on with that man-child. See, once we understood that the man-child is the same as 144,000, that was the first fruits resurrection right there, before right at the beginning of the tribulation, then that helps give us some time context there. Okay, he's cast to the earth where he'll persecute Israel. That's a big question mark. I mean, it just says that Israel, right, the woman, that she is going to be taken into the wilderness. And it kind of leaves it at that. I mean, it says he's going to give them wings of a great eagle. So if we follow that, it sounds like it's going to be something similar to the Exodus account, where Adonai is going to take them into the wilderness, and some kind of way he's going to lead them. Now, this is total speculation. I think it may be the 144,000 that help lead them. I don't know that, and I usually don't speculate at all, but, I'm just speculating. I know the 144,000, there's something that tells me God's going to use them, to do great and mighty things. And so we'll just keep studying and just see what the Father shows about that. But the 144,000, they've got a job to do. Okay, they've got a job to do. God's going to use them to, as Paul said in Romans 16:20, crush Satan under your feet shortly. So we'll see what that's about. But Adonai is going to provide for Israel. That's whoever flees. So, there are a number of people, obviously there are Messianic believers in Israel right now, okay? And they understand what's going on. And they have read Yeshua's warning. Remember, Yeshua gave the warning. He said, when you see the abomination of desolation, remember what he said? He's like, you head for the hills, right? And so I'm sure that they'll be fleeing, and then I'm sure they're going to be rabbis. I'm sure that they're probably going to be people, even just even secular people that are going to head to the hills, right? Because at that time you're going to have to, you'll have to be heading out to that wilderness. So it doesn't say much about it, but it does say that he's going to give Israel the wings of a great eagle, and that speaks of preservation. Okay, and provision for them. So we'll have to see how that works out. And then Hasatan will focus his attention on the remnant of her seed, which is those who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Yeshua. Okay? And so that's going to be a lot of us in that regard there. So this sets the stage for understanding the events in the book of Revelation. Okay? Adonai is primarily going to be dealing with four groups of people. There's going to be the woman Israel. Okay? There's going to be the 144,000 or the man-child. Again, just not knowing right now, what he's going to use them for, or how he's going to use them. The remnant of her seed, all the other saints other than 144,000 in the unbelieving world. Okay, he's got a plan for all. We're going to take a couple of more peeks in this last portion here at the 144,000 and everyone else. I want to show you how they appear throughout the book of Revelation in three different locations, and it's always the 144,000 and everybody else. So we'll see that. Okay. And that's what we're talking about, the presentation of Adonai's people. Throughout the book of Revelation, we see the presentation of Adonai's people as two groups. Now, I probably need to change the name of this because it's not just two groups. It's three groups because you've got Israel going into the wilderness. It's just that I'm not talking about them because there's not much that I see other than he's going to provide the wings of an eagle to care for them during the 1,260 days. I know that. I believe that. But just at this point right now, that's all that I understand about the woman, being 1,260 days in the wilderness. But as far as 144,000 and the remnant of her seed, those who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Yeshua, there are three presentations of them in the scriptures, and they're always together, okay? So the people of Adonai in Revelation chapter 7, okay? So now in order to understand what's going on in chapter 7, we need to understand what's going on in chapter 6, okay? I did that to you guys before, right? I said in order to understand, you got to understand this, right? Okay. So we're going to do that. But that's gonna be good because again, as I said, the main focus this weekend was who's the man-child, who's the 144,000. That was the goal. Okay, so there are lots of other questions, obviously, right? It's like, well, there's all sorts of questions. So hopefully this will fill in a few more gaps as we talk about these three presentations of the 144,000 and the rest. So Revelation 6. 1 through 17 is the prophecy of the first 6 seals, okay? Now, the first 6, this is what's going on. So when you talk about chronology and things like that, so we've already discussed how the Bible is written as a chiastic structure, right? It's written in thematic patterns, to make the patterns match on each side. There is some chronology in it, right? But now, Revelation 6, 1 through 17, that's the first 6 seals. Now, the first 6 seals, they're an overall high-level summary of the entire tribulation period and the devastations that will happen. It's an overview from beginning to end. Remember I told you how sometimes, just like in Genesis, the scripture will open up with a story in general, and then it will come back and fill in details. That's kind of what's happening with Revelation chapter 6. Revelation 6 is giving you a summary, a very broad-stroked picture of the overview of the tribulation period, and then the rest of the Bible is kind of unpacking it a little bit, and I'll show you how we can figure that out. So the first seal reveals how the tribulation is going to start. Okay, the first seal, the white horse. Okay. And when I was here a couple of months ago, we talked about that. So that white horse is deception, okay? The white horse is deception that's going out into the earth, like even right now. We talked about that and I'm going to show you how we figure out that that's deception. So we'll come back with some proof for that. The next 3 seals reveal continuing calamities that will occur throughout the tribulation. Okay, with the wars, with the famines, with the pestilence and the disease and things of that nature. So taken together, the first 4 seals chronicle, chronicle the effect of all those devastations on the unbelieving world, okay? The fifth seal reveals how the saints will suffer through the tribulation period. Because remember, their souls are crying out at the base of the altar, saying, Lord, how long are you going to let them kill us like this, okay? So that was the fifth seal. And then the sixth seal brings us to the end of the tribulation period, okay? It's the end of the tribulation. Now, again, it's just a summary, okay? It's a summary of from beginning to end, and then the rest of the Bible is unpacking it. So let's see how that works. We know the first six seals represent an overview of the entire tribulation period from beginning to end because they are perfectly thematically connected to Yeshua's teaching on how the end will occur. So you remember in Matthew 24, I think Mark 13, and either Luke 17 or Luke 21, I can't remember, Yeshua gives a prophecy of the end times. And he gives a prophecy of the tribulation period from beginning to end. So the reason why I know the first six seals are a summary of the tribulation period from beginning to end is because they match thematically with what Yeshua said. And remember I told you that sometimes you can have either a chiastic structure or parallelism, and the first half is in one book of the Bible, and the second half is in another book of the Bible, okay? This is one of those instances. So what we're going to do is we're going to compare and contrast the first six seals in Revelation chapter 6. We're going to compare and contrast those with what Yeshua taught in Matthew 24, okay? In Matthew 24. And so then what we're going to see is this. So in the first seal, Revelation 6, 1 through 2, is a white horse, okay? That's the first thing that happened. And as a matter of fact, let me open this up to Matthew 24. Because we know that Matthew 24 is a summary of the tribulation period, and because Matthew 24 is told in parallel with chapter 6, that's why we know chapter 6 is an overview. So if we look at Matthew 24, if we look at, so tell us when will these things be, verse 3 in Matthew 24, and what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age? So a couple of questions there. The sign of your coming and the end of the end of the age, right? What's the first thing Yeshua says to them? And Yeshua answered them and said, what? Take heed that no one deceives you. It's the first thing, right? He said, so the sign of your coming and the end of the age. What's the sign of your coming in the age? The first thing Yeshua said was, don't let anybody deceive you, okay? So the first thing is you need to make sure you don't get deceived and that you know the truth, okay? You got to know the truth. We got to know this right here, right? So that's what that white horse is. The white horse is the enemy going out with all sorts of end-time deceptions, okay? And it's already started. I mentioned that earlier. There's all sorts of deception. You guys know this, right? You know what's going on with the news and with social media and just everything. Isn't it crazy? Like this whole thing with COVID. Like they don't want to know, they don't want to let us know the truth about COVID, right? Like in Instagram, if you say anything about COVID, then they're going to put that little thing under there that says, for COVID, for more, true information about COVID, blah, 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 blah. All of the censorship, it's all mind control. That's just one aspect. That's just one aspect of the deception. But I'm just saying, in the natural world, you can see this deception picking up big time. Because even in 2016, or 15, the whole idea of big tech censoring people, they were doing it, they were shadow banning people and all that kind of stuff, but the way it is now, we're just like, well, they just kick you off because they don't like what you're putting up there. Like Project Veritas, right? Project Veritas, they come out with all these videos, and they put them up, on Twitter or whatever, and then Twitter just says, okay, we're taking that down, okay? Just like the CNN producer, recent CNN producer, he's a pedophile. and Project Veritas, they've got the receipts. They've got the video. They've got the audio and everything of this guy talking to the mother of this child. Okay, trying to set something up, right? This is the second CNN producer in the past month that's been outed for being a pedophile. So Project Veritas, they put that up, and then it gets taken down immediately because they don't want you to see it. So that's just one aspect of the censorship, but of the deception. But Yeshua starts off with deception. So I'm saying that white horse is deception, and we'll see again. We'll show it another way here in a second. The red horse is wars. Okay. Well, what does Yeshua? He says here. He says, "Take heed, no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, saying, I'm the Messiah, and deceive many." Do you notice how many times Yeshua said, because it's right here at the beginning, but it's later on too, where he said, people are going to say, I'm the Messiah. Right? Now, we already know that the anti-Messiah, he's going to come with this death and resurrection, with that mortal wound, and he's going to be resurrected. And he seems like the perfect candidate to me for one to be saying, I am the Messiah. So I just leave that with you. Because he's going to suffer a mortal wound, and then it's going to be healed. It's going to be like a resurrection, just like Yeshua. Because like I said, Satan, what he's doing is he's copying Messiah. So the anti-Messiah is going to have a death and resurrection some kind of way that's going to play out in his life. Okay? And Scripture makes it clear that people are going to worship him and follow him because it says because of his deadly wound that was healed. Okay? So he's going to try to do the same thing Yeshua did with this. And I don't know how similar it will be, but all we need to know at this point is we need to watch out for it. And I'm sure all of us are going to know the anti-Messiah. Once he shows his true colors, we'll know who he is anyway. I mean, there's like no way we're not, Right? Because I'm telling you, Yeshua said, ooh, even the elect. Ooh. Ooh, 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 ooh. Even the elect, he said, if those days weren't cut short, he's like, even the elect were going to get deceived. It's going to be crazy. We need to know this, right? We need to know this right here, right? So wars and rumors of wars, okay? And that takes us to 6 and 7. So notice what Yeshua says. He talks about people coming saying, I'm the Christ. And look at verse 6. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. Well, that's exactly what the second seal is, right? The red horse coming with the sword, right? And so let me go back to that white horse. See, a lot of people think that that's Yeshua. It's not Yeshua. They think it's Yeshua because Revelation 19, when he comes back, he is on a white horse. But it's all about deception. That's why he's on a white horse. Because it's a deceptive white horse. It's making us think it's Yeshua. How many people? There's so many people that think that's Yeshua, but it's deceptive. So let's keep going. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through each step, and you're going to see how every step of the way, what Yeshua says in Matthew 24 is going to match perfect order what you read in Revelation chapter 6. And that's why you know the first horse is deception, because it matches up with the first thing Yeshua said, which was going to be deception. See, that's why I'm saying this. That's why I'm saying all these little chiastic structures and parallelisms. They're not just. Adonai didn't just have them there to make the text look beautiful, right? He didn't do this just so that now this looks cute. These themes match. It's cute. No, it's so that we can. It's because one will help you interpret the other. Okay, so you find them so that one can help you interpret the other. Wars and rumors of wars. Okay. The third seal is the black horse, famines. Well, guess what it says in Matthew 24:7. For nation will rise against nation, that's wars, and kingdom against kingdom. And there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. All right, so there's your famine, black horse. Exact same order, okay? That's your next thing, okay? The fourth seal, Revelation 6, 7 through 8, the pale horse, pestilence. Again, Matthew 24b, pestilences, right? And there will be famines and pestilences, right? And earthquakes in various places. What's next? The fifth seal, persecution. Well, look what happens in verse 9. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. Do you guys see how these are both saying the same thing? In exactly the same order, okay? This is the reason why I know that Adonai wants us to make this thematic connection thing, because look what happens when you do it. When you do this, all of a sudden you begin to see things that you couldn't see before that were there all the time. Just like the cupbearer and the baker and Remember Me and the baker actually being killed by being hung on a tree, right? And the bread and the wine and all of that stuff is right there. And it's been there all this time. Yet, right? So this is how he does this thing. So persecution, that was the next thing. And then the sixth seal is the sixth seal. Let's read the sixth seal. Because remember, I'm telling you that the first six seals are the entire tribulation period, just a panoramic summary. This is why verses 12 through 17 is a picture of the day of the Lord. Look, these are things that are going to happen right before Yeshua returns. I looked, and when he opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake. And guess what? The sun became black as sackcloth and hair, and the moon became like blood. What did Yeshua say? He said that, well, let's just go read it. Which verse am I looking for? 29 to 30. Immediately after the tribulation. See, Yeshua just gave us a summary of the tribulation period, right? From Matthew 24:4 all the way through 28, verse 28, is a summary of the entire tribulation period. And then guess what he says? Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light. Let's go back over to Revelation 6:12. I looked, he opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake. The sun became black as sackcloth and hair, and the moon became like blood. The stars of heaven fell to the earth. And right here, the moon will not give its light. In Matthew 24:29, the stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then the Son of Man, the sign of the Son of Man will appear. So Revelation 6, it continues, and the stars of heaven shall fall on the earth as a fig tree drops its late figs when it is shaken by a mighty wind. Then the sky receded as a scroll when it is rolled up, and every mountain and island was moved out of its place. You read about that back in, I think, Revelation 17 and 18, I believe, somewhere around there. And the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich men, the commanders, the mighty men, every slave and every free man, hid themselves in the caves and in the rocks and in the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb, for the great day of his wrath has come, and who is able to stand? They know what's going on. The reason why they know what's going on is because they saw already when we went up. Okay, that's the reason why. Remember it says every eye will see him. Okay? So when we go up, which I believe is going to be before the 7 bowls are poured out, pre-wrath, okay? When we go up, everyone's going to see. That's why right here, they're all saying, hey, you know what? Save us from the day of God's wrath and the wrath of the Lamb, because they know he's coming back. And remember, they're actually going to gather together to try to fight against him when he comes back. This says that they knew what they were trying to do. Remember the frogs? Remember the deceiving spirits? It's either 3 or 4. I can't remember. It says those 3 frogs are going to go out to deceive the nations and bring them and gather them all together for the big fight, where all the nations of the world are going to try to fight against Yeshua when he returns. But see, this is at the end, right? the sun is darkened, the moon is darkened, and that's why I'm saying that Revelation 6 is like an overview of the tribulation period from beginning to end. Because as we read in chapter 6, right, the chapter 6 takes us up to the day of the Lord when Yeshua returns to come in wrath and vengeance and to trample the grapes of wrath, okay, what we read about in Revelation 14, 17 through 20. The signs of, right, so as you see, everything that's happening in Matthew 24 is happening in Revelation 6 in exact order. That's why I know that the first thing is deception. That's what the white horse is. That's the first thing that Yeshua started talking about, okay? All right. So whereas Revelation 6 is a summary, all right, so basically Revelation 6 it's a summary of the woes on the earth from beginning to end during the tribulation period, okay? But chapter 7 is a summary of the blessing and rewards for the saints at the beginning and the end. So it's as if John is doing this. He writes chapter 6, which is an overall summary from beginning to end of all the troubles that are going to be happening to unbelievers and believers on the earth. Because remember, it's all those calamities happening, but remember the saints crying out under the altar? How long? So chapter 6 is all the bad things that are going to happen. It's the bad things that are going to happen to all of the unbelievers, and it's the bad things that are going to happen to the saints. Because they're crying out saying, how long, Lord, before you come and judge them? So chapter 6 is all the bad stuff from beginning to end, just a summary. Chapter 7 is the good things, the blessing and the reward. He follows up one right after the other. So I'm going to tell you all the bad things that are going to happen on the earth as a result of the tribulation. But in chapter 7, I'm going to tell you the good things from beginning to end. And guess where he starts off? The good things is Revelation 7, 1 through 8, the sealing of the 144,000 at the beginning of the tribulation. Because they're going to get sealed, and then they're going to get caught up to God's throne right before the Great Tribulation starts. So it's right at the beginning, okay? And then Revelation 7, 9 through 17, that is the multitude. And notice verses 9 through 17 is a scene in heaven after the tribulation is over. Watch. See, this is why Revelation can be confusing, is because it's giving you these overviews, right? And then it's going to come back later and fill in details. And so when you're looking at an overview, this is verses 9 through 17 is the end, and actually when people are up in heaven and whatnot. And so it's like, well, when is this happening? It's because it's an overview. So listen to what it says here. After these things I looked, and behold, a great multitude, which no one could number, of all nations, tribes, people, and tongues, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, right? Clothed with white robes and palm branches, Sukkot, right? And crying with a loud voice, saying, salvation belongs to our God, who sits on the throne, and to the Lamb. And it goes on and on. And so he said to me, verse 14, these are ones who come out of the great tribulation, and they've washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. That's why they're before the throne of God. They serve him day and night in his temple. He who sits on the throne will dwell among them. They shall neither hunger anymore nor thirst, because that's going to happen to some of the saints during the tribulation period. Saints are going to go hungry, okay? Some saints are going to go hungry. Neither shall the sun strike them anymore, nor any heat. Remember when the sun is going to come and scorch the earth? Some people will go through that. That's why it's saying here it's not going to happen anymore. That former way of life is over with. The sun shall not strike them, nor any heat, for the Lamb who is in the midst of the throne will shepherd them and lead them to living fountains of waters. And God is going to do what? He's going to wipe away every tear. That's when he's going to wipe away every tear. But there's going to be a time, it's called the time of Jacob's trouble, right? It's called the time of Jacob's trouble for a reason. Okay? So Revelation 7, Revelation 7 is showing us, Revelation 7, 1 through 8 is right at the beginning of the tribulation when these guys right here get sealed and they're caught up to God's throne, right? Satan is expelled from heaven. He persecutes the woman for 1,260 days, 3.5 years. That's the beginning of the tribulation period. And then that's the beginning, and then it gives us a picture of the end. So this is a picture of the blessedness of Adonai's people. Two groups he's concentrating on there. The 144,000 and then everybody else. Okay, the 144,000 and everybody else. That's the first example of the twofold presentation of Adonai's people in the book of Revelation. We see two groups, 144,000 and then the remnant of her seed. Here's the second presentation. The second presentation is in Revelation chapter 12. As was true in Revelation chapter 12, so in chapter 7, so likewise in chapter 12. There are two separate groups. Revelation 12:5, she bore a male child, a man child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. That's the 144,000. Okay, that's the 144,000. The double presentation of Adonai's people for the second time in Revelation 12. And her child was caught up to his throne. That's the first fruits resurrection of the 144,000. Okay? This occurs at the beginning of the tribulation. That shouldn't be there. All right? Okay? That's from the last time I was here. This is the gathering of 100. All right? The second group is Revelation 12:17. And the dragon was enraged with the woman and went to make war with the rest of her offspring, those who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Yeshua. There, so see? So first, chapter 7, 144,000 plus everyone else at the beginning and end of the tribulation. Right here in chapter 12, it's the 144,000 or the man-child who gets caught up, and this is right at the beginning of the Great Tribulation, and then the remnant of her seed, the enemy comes to make war with us, okay? And then, and again, as I said, Israel will be, the Jewish people, they're going to go into the wilderness from Israel. Plus, I mean, you have those who are already out amongst the nations too. So there's more there. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work out yet. And then the third presentation of Adonai's people is Revelation 14. And remember I told you that Revelation 14 is a summary of harvests. Revelation 14 is a summary of harvests. Okay? So, as was true in Revelation 7 and 12, so likewise in Revelation 14, there are two separate groups of Adonai's people. Oops, wait a second, what happened here? Oops, I'm out of the presentation. That's okay. I obviously didn't have that slide, so that was going to be it anyway. I think that was probably the last slide anyway. I thought I had another one, but I don't think it is. Yep, that was it. So it's okay, I can talk about it. Right, so as was true in Revelation 7 and 12, so likewise in Revelation 14. And we went over this right at the end, so I'm just going to say this to kind of wrap things up. Revelation 14, 1 through 5, those are the first fruits, the man-child, 144,000 that were resurrected. But this time it's showing them in heaven before the throne. In Revelation 12, it was right when they were being resurrected. And Hasatan standing there so that he could prevent the resurrection from the dead, so that he could prevent us from being resurrected, Adonai's people from being resurrected, okay? And there they are there, the 144,000, and then remember I told you that the general resurrection, is Revelation 14 through 16. The general revelation is the harvest of all the earth, of all believers from all time, going back to Adam. Right? That's what this has all been building up to, the total redemption of mankind and all the saints. Well, I mean, we're talking Adam, we're talking Abel, right? We're talking, the resurrection. That's Revelation 14 through 16. Then I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and on the cloud sat one like the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. Another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him who sat on the cloud, thrust in your sickle and reap, for the time has come for you to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. So he who sat on the clouds thrust in his sickle, and the earth was reaped. That's the general resurrection of all the rest of Adonai's people. So again, the third time, you see both of Adonai. You see Adonai separating people into two major groups here. Also, you've got Israel in the wilderness. Don't want to forget, right? But you've got the 144,000, and then you got everybody else, okay? And then, of course, as I said, verses 17 through 20 is the harvest of the grapes of wrath. That's the one you don't want to be part of, right? The harvest of the grapes of wrath, because they eventually will find their way in the lake of fire. And so we don't want to be part of that group. So, you guys are troopers. I am about to pass out. So, I didn't, so I have another book and 2 CDs that I still need to give out. So, let me come up with a couple of more questions. Okay, so we talked about the sign of the Messiah. So, what's the next example I want to look at? Do you have any suggestions, Miss Tina? They got to work for this. You know how much pain and toil we put into this? No. No freebies here. So this is one of those moments where I've got like a billion, you know. Ooh, oh, and you're telling me not to make it difficult. All right, does anyone, CD, yes. What is your name? Nate, talk to me, baby. Dude. All right. So, talk to me a little bit more about that. How is that a picture of, like, what is that? What is that? Oh, you got to give it back. No, I'm just kidding. It was a wild guess. Give it back. No, just kidding. Go ahead. Boom. Boom. Right? Boom, boom, boom. So guess what? Remember I told you that whenever you see the number 3, well, it's not whenever. It's not 100%. And Adonai does that. I like how he does that. He's not going to make it where it's like 100%. He's going to make it where it's not 100% so that the naysayers are like, well, it's not 100% of the time. And then, but the rest of us that we understand Adonai does that kind of stuff, we're like, yeah, right? 3, 30, 300, 3,000. I want you guys to, so when you see those numbers quite often, it's Adonai shouting at you, saying, this is messianic prophecy right here, okay? Samson is one of the greatest messianic, when I say greatest, he is one, he's one of the greatest. He shows us so much about Messiah Yeshua. And so now people are like, Samson? Are you serious, Samson? That dude had all sorts of problems. Samson? Okay, so my brother just gave us one right there. Right? Yes. Was Samson, did an angel announce Samson? Just like, yes, absolutely. Announced his birth. Right? Next time, I want you guys to read the book of Judges, chapter 13 to 16. Because I looked at my wife because last time I did this, I want you to read the book of Samson. So that's why I looked over at her like, I got this. I want you to read the book of Judges, chapter 13 to 16, Samson's life. Notice how many times you see the number 3. Right? there was a feast, right? And how many changes of garments did Samson enter into that wager with the Philistines? How many changes of garments? 30, right? Right? How many men of Judah came to Samson when he was in the rock? 3,000. How many people were in the temple, were on the second level of the temple of Dagon in Judges 16 when he did this and the temple came down? 3,000. How many pieces of silver was it that Delilah sold him for? I think 300. How many foxes did he go and catch? It's all over the place. 3, 30, 300, 30, 300, 3,000, 3,000, 300. It's all through those few chapters because it's Adonai shouting at us saying, this messianic prophecy here. So one you just brought up, right? When he was in the pit, it says in Judges 16:31, it says that, and the dead that he killed in his death were more than he killed in his life. In other words, we can say that Samson got his greatest victory over his enemy through his death. That's exactly what Yeshua did, right? And he was the pillars, and he pushed them apart, and what do you see? Boom, right? All right, same thing. Remember Samson. Remember he took the 300 foxtails, put a torch in them, sent them into the Philistine camp. Philistines upset, right? So the men of Judah, 3,000 men of Judah, they go to Samson and they grab him and they say, hey, we're handing you over to the Philistines. And he's like, are you guys going to kill me? They're like, no, we're not going to kill you. We're going to hand you over into the hands of Gentiles. Remember what Yeshua said in Luke 24? How the Son of Man would be handed over into the hands of Gentiles, right? And so Samson's life gives us a picture that where the 300 men of Judah, they come to him and they take him and they hand him over to the Philistines. And they're like, we're not going to kill you. We're going to let them kill you, which is what the Jews did. They're like, we're not going to kill him. Let's get the Romans to kill him. You see? Right? And that's what happened with Joseph. Who was it that had the idea, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites? Who was it? Judah. Just like it was 3,000 from the tribe of Judah that turned Samson over into the hands of the Philistines. So on the one hand, you've got Judah who comes up with the idea, let's sell Joseph to the Ishmaelite traders coming by. Because there's this idea of the messianic figure being handed over into the hands of Gentiles. Joseph is one example. Samson is another example. Okay. Give me another one. Yeah, who should we pick on next? Which messianic figure? All right, here's one. How about Jephthah? Jephthah. Here's something. Every one of the judges is a messianic figure teaching us about Messiah Yeshua. Jephthah. All right, I want you guys to explain to me, how does Jephthah give us a picture of the first and second coming of the Messiah? I'm going to help you out. I tell you what, let's not do it that way. Let's do it this way. How does the life of Joseph, okay, because everyone's looking at me with that blank face, Jephthah? Are you serious, Tony? How does Joseph's life give us a picture of the first and second coming of the Messiah? Put your hand up if you know. Joseph's life. Boom.
Joseph's life, the last 13 chapters of Genesis, and everything about his life, and especially
Like what?
he revealed himself to his brothers. Brothers thought he looked like somebody they didn't know, but then he revealed himself to his brothers.
What's that a picture of?
And he was raised up to the second highest ruler. Only Pharaoh was higher.
So what's that a picture of?
It's a picture of Yeshua revealing himself to Israel.
Yes, it is. Okay. Right. So now, so Joseph, here, let's put it this way. Joseph had a dream. Remember we talked about Genesis 37? When Joseph had the dream, right? So he has a dream that he's having multiple dreams that he's going to rule over his brothers, right? And what do his brothers say? You ain't ruling over us, right? You are not ruling over us, right? We ain't bowing down to you. In other words, didn't his brothers reject him? Okay, his brothers rejected him. They were like, no, you are not ruling over us, right? And then what happened to Joseph and his brothers? They were separated, right? They were separated for a long, long time, right? It's about 20 years, which is similar to 2,000 years. And then something happened. There was trouble. What was the trouble that happened? There was trouble that came that was going to wipe out the family. What was the trouble? The famine. So trouble happened about 20 years later. Trouble happens that is going to wipe out the family, right? But what happens? They come to Joseph. They don't know who he is, right? And what does he do? He saved what? And he, as you said, he reveals himself to them, right? He says, Ani, you're safe. I am Joseph, your brother, right? And then what does he do? He saves them and he saves the family. Well, that's what's going to happen in the last days. Yeshua came the first time and he was rejected by his brother. And they're like, no, you're not ruling over us, right? And then he was separated from his brethren for a long period of time. It's been 2,000 years instead of 20 years, right? And there's a period of trouble coming up called Jacob's trouble. And as I said earlier today, and especially if you read Deuteronomy 32, it says that the nation is basically going to get wiped out. And if Adonai didn't step in, that the whole nation was going to get annihilated. And what's going to happen? Yeshua is going to come through the clouds. And then it says, they will look upon him whom they pierced, and they will mourn for him as an only son. And then that's when they're going to say, Baruch haba b'shem Adonai. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. And just like Joseph, he's going to reveal himself to them, and they're going to be, he's the one. And then he's going to come and save them from their enemies. Okay, we got one more. Oh, so this is what happens with Jephthah. The picture in Jephthah's life is exactly the same as Joseph's life. Because remember Jephthah, remember his brothers, they said, you shall not inherit with us, for your mother, you're the son of a harlot. Remember that? Remember Jephthah's brothers, they kicked him out of the house. They're like, get out of here. You're not inheriting with us. Okay, and Jephthah went away. And Jephthah, he became the leader of I don't know, mercenaries or whatever, you know. They had a little army, you know, boom, boom, boom. So what happened is, long period of time passes, just like with Joseph. And then the Ammonites come to attack Israel, right? And remember the Ammonites, they came and they said, you know what? We're looking in our records here. And we're going way back to the beginning of our records. And when you guys came out of Egypt, you took our land. That's what the Ammonites say. You took our land when you came out of Egypt. And so Jephthah, even though he was a rogue, he knew his history. He knew his history. So he's like, no, let me tell you how this went down. And he starts going through, he's like, well, Moses did this, and then we went through this border, and blah, 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 blah. They're like, we didn't touch your land. So in other words, what happened is a long period of time passed, and then the Ammonites were going to attack. And the Ammonites were going to wipe Israel off the face of the map. But then Adonai anointed Jephthah, and Jephthah came, so whereas they had rejected him, and a long period of time had passed, in a time of trouble, Jephthah comes back and he saves his people from their enemies. This is the story of Joseph. It's the story of Yeshua. Pardon? They called him back. Yeah, they wanted him back. They said, come back. You can rule over us now. Okay, one last one. All right, here's a question. So you just heard what I said about Jephthah. What other person in the Tanakh is similar to Jephthah as far as forming their own little army of mercenaries? David. Who said David? Boom, right here. Right? So guess what? So get out of here. Oh, Marcel's always looking for a handout. You better watch that guy. Right? Same thing happened with David. So the story of Jephthah is the story of David. Because Jephthah was rejected by his brothers, right? Well, remember Saul and how he chased David off? So Jephthah's brothers, they chased him off. David and Saul and Saul, they chased David off, right? And then it says that David formed his own little army, just like Jephthah did. And it says all the men who were in debt and in distress became his army. All the ones who were in debt and distress, all the losers. Right? All the losers. And then they became David's fighting army. And then, hallelujah, you got those 30 mighty men of David.
David's brothers rejected him because his father Jesse rejected him.
Yes. David was rejected by his brothers too. So anyway, all right, now I'm really about to pass out. So we just wanted to give away those things. And so I like to make you guys work for it. So Adonai bless you guys. Thanks.